On March 10th, 2026, the man who the internet said could never die celebrated his 86th birthday. He posted a video of himself sparring with a boxing trainer, still throwing punches, still grinning. He wrote, "I don't age. I level up." 9 days later, he was gone. Chuck Norris, the man who roundhouse kicked his way into our hearts, movie screens, and memes, passed away suddenly on March 19th, 2026, on the island of Kauai, Hawaii. He was 86 years old, and the world stopped for a moment. Because even though we always knew this day would come, somehow, deep down, nobody really believed he could die. But behind every legend is a real human story. A story of poverty, pain, discipline, failure, reinvention, and ultimately greatness. Today, we are going to tell that full story. From a tiny town in Oklahoma to the halls of Hollywood, from the battlefields of Korea to the roundhouse kicks heard around the world. This is Chuck Norris. Carlos Ray Norris was born on March 10th, 1940, in Ryan, Oklahoma, a tiny, quiet town that most people have never heard of. He was the first of 3 brothers, born into a family that struggled with nearly every hardship you can imagine. His father, Ray Norris, was a World War II soldier, but he was also a man with deep demons, an alcoholic who was largely absent during his childhood. His mother, Wilma, was the rock of the family. She raised her boys with faith, love, and an iron will. Young Carlos, who would later be nicknamed Chuck by his Air Force colleagues, described himself as painfully shy and introverted. He wasn't athletic. He wasn't the tough kid on the block. In school, if a teacher called on him to speak aloud in front of the class, he would simply shake his head and refuse. The family was poor, the kind of poor where you worry about your next meal. When his parents divorced, his mother packed up the family and moved, first to Prairie Village, Kansas, then all the way to Torrance, California. California meant a new start, but for a shy, introverted kid from Oklahoma, it also meant feeling like a permanent outsider. What saved him wasn't a movie role, a karate class, or a famous friend, but discipline. A discipline he hadn't discovered yet, but was about to find in the most unexpected place. In 1958, at just 18 years old, Chuck Norris enlisted in the United States Air Force. He was assigned as an air policeman, the Air Force's equivalent of the military police. The job required discipline, alertness, and strength. All things the shy boy from Oklahoma was going to have to learn fast. He was stationed at Osan Air Base in South Korea. And it's here, in Korea, that everything changes. One day, watching some local men training outside the base, he was introduced to Tang Soo Do, a Korean martial art that emphasized kicking techniques, discipline, and mental focus. He was immediately captivated. He started training, obsessively, every spare moment, free hour, and weekend. The shy kid who couldn't speak in front of his class was now screaming ki-yaps in a dojo, breaking boards, and pushing himself to limits he didn't know existed. It was also in Korea that he got the nickname that would follow him for the rest of his life. His colleagues started calling him Chuck. Simple, strong, easy, and it fit. By the time he returned to the United States in 1962, he was a changed man. He wasn't just physically transformed, he was psychologically remade. He was no longer the boy who shook his head in class. He was someone who knew who he was, someone with purpose. He left the Air Force and made a decision that would change his life forever. He would open a karate school. Opening a karate school wasn't easy. To attract students, he knew he needed credibility. And in the martial arts world, credibility meant winning. So he became a competitor. What followed was one of the most dominant runs in the history of competitive martial arts. He became a 6-time undefeated world professional middleweight karate champion. 6 times, undefeated. He trained relentlessly, His students included some of the biggest names in Hollywood: Steve McQueen, Priscilla Presley, the Osmonds, and even Bob Barker. Yes, the game show host, who famously said he cracked his ribs during a training session. He didn't just fight, he created. In 1990, he founded his own style of martial arts, a hybrid system known as Chun Kuk Do, meaning the universal way. He also founded the United Fighting Arts Federation, which has since awarded more than 3,300 his system black belts worldwide. Black Belt magazine ultimately inducted him into their Hall of Fame and credited him with a 10th degree black belt, the highest honor possible. Let me say that again. The highest honor possible in the world of martial arts. But as dominant as he was in the dojo, he was about to step into a completely different arena. And it started with a man named Bruce Lee. In the 1960s, the martial arts world was small, and within it, Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee crossed paths. They trained together, they sparred, and a genuine friendship was born. That friendship led to one of cinema's most iconic moments. In 1972, Bruce Lee cast Norris in his film The Way of the Dragon, known in America as Return of the Dragon. Chuck played Colt, a hired American martial arts expert brought in as muscle for a criminal organization. The climax of the film is set in the Roman Colosseum. It's Chuck Norris versus Bruce Lee, mano a mano, in what many consider the greatest hand-to-hand fight scene ever put on film. Bruce Lee wins. Chuck's character dies, but the scene introduced him to a global audience, and they loved what they saw. After that, it was one of Bruce Lee's celebrity students, Steve McQueen, who gave him the push he needed. McQueen told him, "Go take acting classes. If you apply yourself the way you do in martial arts, you have a real shot." He listened. He took acting classes. He studied the craft. And in 1977, he landed his first leading role in Breaker, an action film about a trucker searching for his missing brother. It was shot in just 11 days. It made money, and America's first homegrown martial arts movie star was born. The 1980s belonged to Chuck Norris. He became the face of a new kind of American hero, rugged, silent, deadly, and deeply patriotic. At a time when America was still processing the wounds of Vietnam, he gave audiences exactly what they wanted, an American who fights back and wins. In 1984, he starred in Missing in Action, a film about a Vietnam veteran who returns to Southeast Asia to rescue American POWs still held captive after the war. The film was a massive hit. It tapped into a very real, very raw nerve in the American psyche. He became the star of Cannon Films, one of the most prolific action movie studios of the decade. Over 4 years, he appeared in 8 Cannon films, including Code of Silence, which critics called one of his best performances, the Delta Force films, Firewalker, and more. His brother Aaron Norris became a producer and director on many of these films, making it a true family affair. His on-screen persona was unforgettable. Stone-faced, quietly menacing, a man who didn't look for trouble, but when trouble found him, it always regretted it. He once said in 1982, "I wanted to project a certain image on screen, a hero. I had seen too many anti-hero movies where the lead was neither good nor bad. There was no one to root for." Chuck Norris gave America someone to root for, and America rooted hard.
My name is Trevette. I'm a Texas Ranger. I work with Cordell Walker. But let's get one thing straight. I'm not his sidekick. That's his sidekick.
Chuck Norris is coming to CBS as Walker.
Texas Ranger!
Is your screen big enough? 2-hour series.
As the 1990s arrived, the big-budget action film era began to cool. Chuck Norris, ever the disciplined martial artist, adapted instead of retreating. In 1993, he stepped onto television screens with Walker, Texas Ranger, and it was a phenomenon. He played Cordell Walker, a veteran Texas Ranger who fights crime across the Lone Star State, with a combination of cowboy grit and martial arts mastery. The show ran for 8 seasons, from 1993 to 2001. That's nearly a decade on primetime television. It became a cultural institution, airing in over 100 countries worldwide. It made him a movie star and household name across generations. He was nominated for a TV Guide Award as Favorite Actor in a Drama in 1999. And in 2010, then Governor Rick Perry of Texas gave Norris an honorary Texas Ranger badge, one of only a handful ever awarded to a civilian. Walker wasn't just entertainment. For millions of viewers, Walker was Chuck Norris. The values he projected, justice, honor, faith, loyalty, felt absolutely real. Because they were real. Chuck Norris wasn't acting. He was just being himself with better hair. Then the internet happened, and Chuck Norris became something even bigger than a movie star. He became a myth. In the early 2000s, his facts went viral, a collection of wildly exaggerated, hyperbolic one-liners celebrating his supposed indestructibility. You've heard them. He had a staring contest with the sun and won. They wanted to put him on Mount Rushmore, but the granite wasn't tough enough for his beard. He kills 100% of germs, even the ones you want to keep. What did he do when he found out? He laughed. He embraced it completely. He compiled his favorites into the official Chuck Norris Fact book, mixing the absurd legends with real stories from his life and the personal codes he lived by. The meme phenomenon made him beloved by an entirely new generation that hadn't grown up watching Walker or missing in action. Chuck Norris became the internet's first immortal, the man who could never die, which makes what happened in 2026 all the more shocking. Behind the roundhouse kicks and the one-liners was a man of profound faith and deep personal complexity. Chuck Norris was married twice. His first marriage was to Diane Holchek, his high school sweetheart from Torrance, California. They married young. She was 17 and he was 18 when he was about to join the Air Force. They raised two sons together, Mike, born in 1962, and Eric, born in 1965. Their marriage was not without difficulty. He later acknowledged that he had fathered a daughter, Dina, outside of the marriage in 1962, a fact that created strain and was only addressed publicly years later. In December 2025, just 3 months before his own death, he lost Diane. She passed away at age 84 after a long battle with dementia. Chuck and their son Mike announced the news together, saying she passed peacefully at her home in Texas. He remarried in 1998. His second wife, Gina O'Kelly, was a former model. She became a central figure in his life, his partner in faith, in advocacy, and in daily life at their ranch in Texas. He was outspoken about his Christian faith. He wrote multiple books combining martial arts philosophy with Christian values and patriotic themes. He was also a vocal supporter of Second Amendment rights and endorsed several political candidates over the years. He was known for going skydiving with former President George W. Bush for the president's 80th birthday. He was that kind of man, bold, loyal, and always willing to show up for the people he cared about. Even as he aged, Chuck Norris refused to slow down. He continued training well into his 80s at his ranch in Texas. He appeared in infomercials for workout equipment. He wrote columns. He stayed connected to his fans. In 2012, he made a triumphant return to the big screen in The Expendables 2 alongside Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, and others, introducing himself to yet another generation. Stallone later said of him, "He was all-American in every way. Great man." He had a surprise comedic appearance in Dodgeball in 2004. He appeared in the 2024 sci-fi action film Agent Recon, and he was reportedly set to appear in an upcoming film called Zombie Plane. Earlier in 2026, just weeks before his death, he was on the island of Kauai in Hawaii. On March 10th, his birthday, he posted on social media from Kauai, celebrating with a training session, throwing punches at a bag, sparring with a trainer. He wrote, "I don't age. I level up. I'm 86 today. Nothing like some playful action on a sunny day to make you feel young. I'm grateful for another year, good health, and the chance to keep doing what I love. Thank you all for being the best fans in the world. God bless Chuck Norris. Those will be his last public words. On Wednesday, March 18th, 2026, something happened on Kauai. The nature of the emergency was never fully disclosed. Reports emerged that he had been hospitalized, but sources said he was still alert, joking with friends, and in good spirits. He had been training that same Wednesday. A friend who spoke with him by phone that day said he was cracking jokes, laughing, seemingly fine. And then, on the morning of Thursday, March 19th, 2026, Chuck Norris was gone. His family posted a statement on his official Instagram account in the early hours of March 20th. It read, "It is with heavy hearts that our family shares the sudden passing of our beloved Chuck Norris yesterday morning. While we would like to keep the circumstances private, please know that he was surrounded by his family and was at peace. To the world, he was a martial artist, actor, and a symbol of strength. To us, he was a devoted husband, a loving father and grandfather, an incredible brother, and the heart of our family. He lived his life with faith, purpose, and an unwavering commitment to the people he loved. Through his work, discipline, and kindness, he inspired millions around the world and left a lasting impact on so many lives." He was 86 years old. Chuck Norris left behind a net worth estimated between $70 million and $100 million. But money was never what defined him. He left behind 8 seasons of Walker, Texas Ranger, over 20 action films, 6 Karate World Championships, a martial arts federation that has trained thousands, books, columns, faith, family. He left behind an internet mythology that made him the world's most famous punchline, and he laughed at every single one. He left behind a generation of action movie fans who grew up believing that one man, with enough discipline and enough heart, could take on anything. He leaves behind his wife Gina, his children Mike, Eric, and Dina, and his grandchildren. Sylvester Stallone said it simply, he was all-American in every way. And maybe that's the best summary we have. Not the memes, movies, and the kicks. Chuck Norris was all-American, born in poverty, forged in discipline, made into a legend by nothing but sheer will and faith. He once said, "A lot of people give up just before they're about to make it. You never know when that next obstacle is going to be the last one." He never gave up, not once. And for 86 years, the world was better for it. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you. Truly, this was a man worth remembering, not just for the kicks and the movies, but for the life he actually lived. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. We cover the full stories of legends like this every week, the lives behind the fame, told in full. Drop a comment below. What's your favorite Chuck Norris movie? Or your favorite Chuck Norris fact? Let's honor the man in the comments. Rest in peace, Chuck Norris. You were one of a kind.